Hello everyone. Today I will be discussing an interesting topic, sensory evaluation. Sensory evaluation is a scientific method used to measure, analyze, and interpret reactions to the characteristic of products perceived by the senses, like sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. It is widely used in the food industry to assess the quality and acceptability of food products. However, its application extends to the industries like cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, textiles. So today our discussion will focus on covering the principles of sensory evaluation, the different types of sensory tests, and how these evaluations are conducted. So, what are sensory attributes? So, the sensory evaluation involves a range of scientific methods to measure, analyze, and interpret human reactions. Uh, those are the characters of food and materials as perceived by those senses. The goal is to understand how sensory properties affect consumer preference and to ensure that the product meets the quality standards. So it combines subjective assessments of human and objective measurements. So that would give a comprehensive view of how a product is perceived. So now let's look at the importance of sensory evaluation. So sensory evaluation is crucial for several reasons. It helps in product development by identifying attributes that appeal to customers. Also, it ensures quality control by detecting deviations from the desired sensory characteristics for that specific food product. Sensory evaluation also supports marketing strategies by providing data on consumer preferences. It also aids in making informed decisions about product reformulation, ensuring the product maintains its appeal while perhaps being healthier or more cost effective to produce. So let's talk about the appearance. The size, shape, color, temperature, and surface texture. These all play an important part in helping to determine the first reaction to a food. So often, if a food does not look appetizing, then you will not eat it. Right? So appearance is therefore vitally important if you want your food to be eaten or enjoyed. So these are some useful words to describe appearance. So stringy, a food texture characterized by long, thin fibers that pull apart easily. So it is like a string cheese or pulled pork. Firm. Firm is when a food that maintains its shape and provides resistance when bitten into. So, like a fresh apple, you can feel the firmness. Dry, a food lacking moisture, often resulting in a crumbly or tough texture like dry biscuit. Heavy, a dense and weighty food, typically rich and filling, such as a dense chocolate cake. Flaky, a food that breaks into thin crisp layers, like a well-baked croissant or pastry. Those are flaky food items. So, crumbly. Crumbly means a food that easily breaks into small pieces or crumbs, like a shortbread cookie. Flat. A food that is thin and lacks volume or height, such as a pancake or flatbread. So crisp is when a food is with a firm, crunchy texture when bitten like a fresh potato chip. So that's when you call a crispy chip. Lumpy, a food with uneven, small chunks or clumps. Often they are seen in mashed potatoes or certain batters. Fizzy, a drink or food that contains bubbles like carbon dioxide bubbles and produces a tingling sensation on the tongue like soda. So, fluffy appearance. A light and airy food with a soft texture such as perfectly whipped mousse or sponge cake. Smooth. A food with an even, creamy texture filled of lumps or grains like a pureed soup. So crystalline. Crystalline means when a food with a structure made up of visible crystals, such as sugar or salt. Hard appearance. A food that is tough and requires effort to bite into, like a hard candy or stale pet. Mushy. A food with a soft, often overcooked texture that easily loses its shape, like overripe bananas. Cuboid. A food that is shaped like a cube, with a rectangular, box-like appearance, such as tofu or cheese cubes, like butter cubes as well. Sticky. So sticky is called when food that clings into surfaces and is often difficult to remove, like honey or caramel. Fragile. A delicate food that easily breaks or crumbles, such as a thin wafer or delicate cookie. So the dull appearance, a food that lacks shine or brightness, often indicating a lack of freshness like stale apple. So when considering appearance, what words would you use to describe these foods? So you first eat your food just by looking at it. Odor. So the nose detects volatile aromas released from food. An odor may be described by association with particular food, like herby, cheesy, fishy. The intensity can also be recorded. It has a high cheesy odor, fishy odor. So odor and taste work together to produce a flavor. This is the reason why people with a blocked nose find it difficult to determine the flavors of foods. So now let's look at the useful words to describe an odor. Aromatic, a pleasant or distinct scent often found in herbs and spices such as basil or cinnamon. Pungent, a strong, sharp smell that is often intense and can sometimes be unpleasant, like the aroma of garlic or blue cheese. Spicy, So it is when a warm, sometimes hot scent that comes from spices like chili, peppers, or black pepper, indicating a flavorful intensity. Floral, a scent reminiscent of flowers and often sweet and fragrant, like rosewater or elderflower. Bland, a scent that is weak for barely noticeable, often indicating a lack of distinct aroma like plain rice. So you say it has a bland smell. Tainted, an unpleasant or off-putting scent that suggests spoilage or contamination such as sour milk. Perfumed, a strong, often sweet scent that may be artificially added, similar to the smell of vanilla or almond extract. Rancid, an offensive, stale smell typically associated with spoiled fat or oils, such as old butter or nuts. Savory, a rich, appetizing scent that suggests a salty or umami flavor, like roasting meat or soy sauce. Rotten, a foul or decaying smell that indicates spoilage, often associated with decomposing organic matter like spoiled vegetables. Tart, a sharp, sour scent often associated with acidic foods such as lemon, juice, or vinegar. Citrus smell, so a fresh, bright scent associated with citrus fruits like oranges, lemons, and limes. So acrid, a harsh, irritating scent that can be sharp and biting, often found in burnt or charred foods. So, so when you say a strong smell or strong small odor, a powerful scent that is easily noticeable and dominant, like a freshly brewed cup of coffee. Mild, a gentle, subtle scent that is not overpowering, like steamed rice or lightly poached fish. Mushy, a stale, damp scent often associated with mold or old, poorly ventilated spaces, like old bread or basement odors. Weak. So when say weak smell, weak odor, a faint scent that is barely detectable, lacking intensity or distinctive character, like under-seasoned food. Scented, a noticeable but pleasant aroma that is often added or natural, like the smell of fresh herbs. The fragrant, a pleasing, sweet, and often floral scent that is light and refreshing, like a bouquet of fresh basil or vanilla. So now let's look at the sound. So the sound of food being prepared or cooked or served or eaten all help to influence our preference. All these food items that I have shown in the presentation, you can imagine, you can like visualize or like interpret the sounds of these foods, the mouth feel of these foods. So that's what it called like your sensory attributes. Taste. The tongue can detect five basic tastes. Those are bitter, salt, sour, sweet, umami. The taste may be described by association with a particular food. So like meaty taste, minty or fruity taste. The intensity can also be recorded like mild cheddar, strong cheddar, like it has a mild taste, or it has like some strong taste. So there are some these are some useful words to describe taste. So sweet, a pleasant taste often associated with sugars or natural sweeteners like honey or ripe fruit. Cool, a refreshing taste sensation often associated with mint or methanol. So when you say cool taste, you think of a mint or methanol, which leaves a cooling effect in the mouth. Bitter taste, a sharp, often unpleasant taste that can be slightly astringent, commonly found in dark chocolate for some people, and also in coffee or some certain leafy greens like I don't know. I like bitter taste, like bitter gourd. Yeah. Umami taste, a savory, rich taste that is often described as meaty or brothy. So, found in foods like mushrooms, soy sauce, or Parmesan cheese. Zesty, a lively, tangy taste often associated with citrus fruits or spicy seasonings that add a sharp, fresh flavor. Warm, a comforting taste often linked with spices like cinnamon or ginger, so they which provide a soothing heat without burning. Hot, a strong, intense taste or sensation that creates a burning feeling in the mouth. So commonly found in foods with chili peppers or hot sauce. Tangy, a sharp, slightly sour taste that is refreshing and vibrant. So this is often found in foods like yogurt, pickles, or sauerkraut. Sour, a sharp, acidic taste that causes a puckering sensation, often um, puker, often associated with lemons, vinegar, or turmeric. Sharp, a strong, often biting taste that can be acidic or peppery, such as the flavor of a sharp cheddar cheese or radishes. So the rich taste, a deep, intense taste often like associated with high fat content like cream, butter, or dark chocolate. So the salty taste, a taste that is characterized by the presence of salt, so enhancing the flavors in foods such as pretzels and chips or salted nuts. The bland taste, a lack of strong flavor often perceived as neutral or plain like white rice, boiled potatoes without seasoning. So when you say the rancid taste, it is meant an unpleasant, stale taste that indicates spoilage, often found in oils, nuts that have gone bad. Tart, a sharp, sour taste that is often refreshing and tangy, like that of green apples or cranberry. Acidic, a sour, tangy taste that has a high acid content, such as lemon, juice, or vinegar. A strong taste, a potent or intense taste that dominates the palate, like a pungent blue cheese or a heavily spiced curry. Citrus, a fresh, bright, tangy taste associated with citrus fruits such as oranges, lemons, and grapefruits. Mild taste, a gentle, subtle taste that is not overpowering like a soft cheese or steamed vegetables. So spicy taste, a hot or piquant taste that creates a tingling sensation. So it is also due to the rich peppers or black peppers taste. So tainted taste. So it is an off unpleasant taste that suggests contamination or spoilage, such as the flavor of food that has gone bad. So the weak taste is called when there is a faint taste that is barely detectable, so overs or that is often perceived as lacking in flavor or seasoning. So these are some useful words to describe the texture. So brittle. So brittle is a texture that is hard and easily broken or cracked, like thin cracker or brittle candy. Rubbery texture. A texture that is firm, elastic, and slightly chewy, often found in overcooked meat or squid. Short. So a texture that crumbles easily in the mouth without being chewy, such as shortbread cookie. Gritty, a texture with small, hard particles that create a grainy feel like sand or in spinach, or a pear that isn't fully ripe. That the gritty texture is like grain-like feeling. Clammy. So clammy is a texture that feels slightly damp or sticky, often associated with foods that are cold and moist. Close, a texture that is dense and compact with a little air or fluff, such as dense pound cake. Turgid, this is a texture, a heavy, thick texture that feels overly filling and dense. This is often used to describe poorly made bread or pastry. Bubbly, a texture filled with bubbles or air pockets like a light meringue or a carbonated beverage. Sandy, a texture that is feels like it has fine, loose grains, often undesirable, like a poorly mixed cake batter or groundnuts. So the tacky, a sticky texture that slightly adheres to the teeth or fingers, like caramel or overcooked rice. Tender, or soft texture that easily yields under pressure and often desirable in cooked meats or baked goods, so that you call tender meat. And waxy, a smooth texture that is firm but slightly pliable and shiny, like the surface of a waxed apple. So, like a certain type of cheese also feels like waxy. So open, a texture characterized by large air pockets, often found in bread with light crumb structure, such as ciabatta. Soft, so it is a texture that is easily deformed under slight pressure, often found in fresh bread, ripe fruits, or soft cheese. Firm texture is also a solid and resists pressure without being hard, like a perfectly cooked pasta or a crisp apple. So the flake filling, a texture consisting of thin, delicate layers that easily separate or peel off. So often found in pastries like croissants or pie crust. So the crisp filling, a texture that is firm but easily broken or snapped like a fresh celery stick or a crispy potato chip. The fluffy filling or the fluffy texture, a light and airy texture that feels soft and cushiony, often found in whipped cream or likewise. So the dry texture is, yeah, it's a texture lacking moisture, so often feels crumbly or powdery like a stale bread or dry toast. So, yeah, crumbly is a texture that easily breaks into small pieces, so often associated with dry cakes or cookies. Lumpy. So lumpy is a texture characterized by irregular solid piece within a smoother mixture. So that there is a smoother mixture, but there are some irregular solid pieces you find. So that there you call it like lumpy mashed potatoes. Smooth. So that is a texture that is even and uniform without any lumps or graininess or like a well pureed soup or a chocolate mousse. Hard. Hard is a solid texture that is resistant to pressure like a boiled sweet or a hard candy. Mushy. So it's a texture that is overly soft and lacks texture, often associated with overcooked vegetables or ripe bananas. Sticky texture. So, yeah, like rice, a texture that adheres to surfaces, often associated with foods like honey, caramel, and rice. Chalky, so that is a texture like dry powdery texture that leaves a residue in the mouth. So it is often found in some types of cheese or unripe bananas. There's this chalky feeling that there is as a remains as a residue in the mouth. Grainy texture is feels like fine particles of grains, like a coarse mustard or a gritty pear. Fibrous texture is a stringy, tough texture often found in certain vegetables, fruits, or fibrous meats that are rich in fiber, like also celery or in pineapple. So now let's look at the perception of the sensory attributes. So human senses. There are five senses, and this sensory evaluation all depends on these human senses. So it is a combination of these senses that enables you to elevate a food. So those are vision, touch, olfactory senses, chemical or trigeminal, gustation or taste, and hearing. So, so combination of all these senses is what makes you enable to evaluate the food. So now let's look at the sense of vision. So light enters the lens is focused on the retina, where the rods and cones convert it to the neural impulses, and that travels the brain via the optic nerve. So after the brain communication, you see the vision. So the limitations are by the vision. So subjects often find consistent response about an object even when filters are used to mask differences. So in the main case, filters can mask hues, but not always brightness and chroma. So the subjects are also influenced by the adjoining or background color, and gloss and texture of a surface also affect the perception of color. That is the first impression, the color, or maybe the order. Yeah. So color vision differs among other subjects. So there can be color blindness to some people that causes some deviations in the results. So now let's look at the sense of touch. So it is divided to two. Somatis Somesthesis, like tactile sense, skin field feature, and kinesthesis, like deep pressure sense that you feel in these, like the layer, in the dermis layer, you can feel the deep pressure sense. This is the epidermis, this is the hair follicle. So hair follicle is rooted in the dermis. And also there are like cold receptors, that is in the upper epidermis layer, and also pain receptors also in the higher level of epidermis. Pressure receptors, in other hand, is that I mentioned, is kinesthesis also in the dermis layer. Heat receptors are also in the lower layer of the epidermis. So now let's look at the olfactory sense. So airborne odorant or sensed by olfactory epithelium located in the root of nasal cavity. So optimal contact sniff, like 1 to 2 seconds, allow 5 to 20 seconds before the next odor. So you can identify those olfactory senses. Now let's look at the chemical or trigeminal factors. So trigeminal nerve ends stimulated by chemical irritants like ginger, pepper, chili, menthol, ammonia. So by these trigeminal factors that can cause like perceptions of burn or cool or pungency, heat, mostly in ginger, pepper, chili mm, like stimulants can cause stimulate the terminal nerve end in the mucosa of eyes. So you can suddenly feel crying, and also you might want to need you suddenly sneeze, or the so there can so that they are stimulate the nose and mucosa of nose and mouth, that causing some irritational feeling. The sense of gustation or taste. So there are five tastes that you all might know, like salt, sweet, bitter, sour taste, and umami taste. So there are 12,000 to 15,000 tastes passed in the tongue, in the mucosa of the palate, and also in throat. So chemical sense detect the stimuli uh, dissolved in water. So when you eat something, you chew it, and then they get dissolved in the saliva in your mouth. And after dissolving in the saliva or the water, saliva they get dispersed into the taste buds. So after that, you feel all these tastes. So, so you have to So when using this uh, sensors, you have to take small sips and you have to like wait 15 to 60 seconds between alternative steps like that. If not, that will cause some bias. And the first and second most sensitive one is this taste sense. So it is very critical um, test factor for the sensory evaluation. The sense of hearing. So that is caused by the vibration in the air. So vibration of eardrum, there is this hydraulic motion created in the inner ear, and the neutral in the then after that in the eustachian tube, there's a impulse going to the brain, and after detecting the hearing, you get the sound of you can test, like you can hear what you are testing at the moment. Now let's look at the chain of sensory perception. So when a stimulus or food enters into your mouth, then after getting into your stomach, so just by seeing and hearing, also tasting the stimulus, you get a nerve signal to your brain. In the brain that interprets and organizes also integrates the incoming sensation. So that causes a perception, and after that you feel like there is a response how you feel about this sensory perception in your head, like how you feel about this stimulus or how you feel about this food. So after that evaluation, you can give it a number and give it a good mark or give it a bad mark according to your perception of that food. So using your sensors, we can develop personal food preferences. So according to our senses, there are likes and dislikes. There are things that we like, the smells that we like, and smells that we don't like. And according to that, we can evaluate foods either through preference or discrimination tests. So there are few types of sensory tests. The sensory evaluations can be divided into three main types of tests. So as I mentioned earlier, the first one is discrimination test. These tests are used to determine if there is a detectable difference between samples. So the samples include a triangle test and dual trio test. So the descriptive test, those are the tests involve trained panelists. So they have to describe the sensory attribute of a product in detail, like what flavor they found or what are the more strong and what was the more uh, weak likewise. So they have to mention everything in detail about the texture, about the mouthfeel, also about the color differences likewise. The flavor profile method and the quantitative descriptive analysis are the popular exams for this method. Affective tests. These tests assess consumer preferences and acceptability. So the common methods include the hedonic scale and tiered preference scale test. Like each type of test serves a different purpose, from identifying differences to understanding consumer likes and dislikes. Yes. So, what is sensory evaluation? In the definition, it is or sensory evaluation or sensory analysis is the identification, scientific measurement, analysis, and interpretation of properties of products that as they are perceived through the five senses, which are sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. So the instruments that we gather the information are human. So human subjects as the instruments for this evaluation. So what does it do? Um, so it answers three quality questions like discrimination. So in the discrimination there are product X and there can be product Y, also product Z. So in comparison, how great the difference? Is there a drastic or very huge difference between the product X and product Y? So, so will people detect the differences? Of if there is a difference that you mentioned, will it affect? Will people detect that as well? And how many would detect the difference? So, according to uh, your expertise, you can mention how many people would be able to detect this difference. So that is the three quality questions that would do in the discrimination test. In the description test, so what does the product taste like? So we have to be very in detail and describe what the product tastes like and what are the apparent sensory attributes and how does the processing affect the attributes. If there is a definite like defined attribute that needs to be in the product but in the processing in some step in the processing that which in which affects the reduction of that attribute. So also how do products differ in sensory attributes and which sensory attributes show marked differences. These are very important in descriptive tests. Uh, Now let's look at the preference of hedonics. So there you have to answer, do you like the product? So how much do you like it? Is it acceptable or do you not like it at all? Is it good as other products? Is it better than other products? And do you prefer these products over the other products that you have tested or that you are given in the test? And what do you like most about this product? Yeah, like your unbiased feeling. And also you can answer what other features do you like about this product. You might not like the look of the product or the food, but after tasting it, the mouth feel, you might actually like it than the other product. So you can mention that I might not be like at the first glance, I would not want to eat it, but after getting it into the mouth, I feel very good taste. So you can mention it as an evaluator. It's a good thing for the for some research and development sector to get into the improvements to be done with the appearance of the product. So when does it use? So sensory evaluation can be used to compare similarities or differences in a range of dishes or the range of products and also to evaluate a range of existing products and analyze food samples for improvement. So after getting these marks, you can improve what are the needs that need to be improved in order to get a good consumer uh, preference and God's response to a product. like acceptable versus unacceptable, and explore specific characteristics of an ingredient or food product. Check whether a final food product meets its original specification. There in every company, related to every product, so there is an original specification. In that document, that is mentioned what are uh, the preferred, or the what are the um, respective or the related um, taste, or the related look, or the related the texture that is expecting from the final end product. So if that is not the case, that is not the color that are produced, so that would not go to the market. So in the sensory evaluation, you have to be very specific, and you have to be very observing about and you have to be very educated about the original specifications and what are the colors that are needed to be in the original product. So we have to be very careful whether the original specification meets with the final product, and provide objective and subjective feedback data to enable informed decision to be made. So sensory analysts should also be able to optimize four factors. Those are definition of the problem. So what is to be measured must be precisely defined. So you have to define the everything precisely. And test design. Um, So, in the test, you should not leave any room for subjectivity, and the other person should not be able to guess the answers, like something in the middle, or like 1, 2, 3, like numbering. So, it can be anything. So, and also you can exchange places, or like there should not be any subjectivity room for any subjectivity in the test, in the designing the test. And also uh, should take into account the known sources of bias. If there is a bias, you should be able to identify it and avoid it as much as possible. So the bias, or the evaluator is also human. There is no any machineries that is used in this evaluation. So evaluator is a human, so there can be biases. So we can't 100% avoid any biases, but you can avoid as much as possible. Instrumentation. Test subjects must be selected, trained to give a reproducible verdict. So the evaluation panel should be selected by the expertise. So they should be able to identify if there is a color difference in the produced than that is mentioned in the original specifications. Also, there is a taste difference. So they should be trained to give a verdict, the responsible verdict, also reproducible verdict. An analyst must work with the team until he knows their sensitivity and bias in given situation. So you can, as the analyst, you can identify what are the sensitivity to these people and what are the bias in these people. So you can identify those and assess the evaluation. Interpretations of the results. So So you should choose the correct null hypothesis and correct alternative hypothesis, and draw only conclusions that are warranted by the results. So other than that, you cannot make any conclusions rather than making any um, evaluation. So there are few characteristics of the testers. So main thing is they can quite variable over time and also very variable among themselves, and also they are highly prone to bias. So if there is a durian, for an example, if there is a durian sensory evaluation, some people might not like the durian taste at all, and on the other scale, in the spectrum of like 0 to 100, some people might like it like 100%. So many people can be highly prone to bias. So, to account adequately for these shortcomings, you can repeat the measurements. You can do these measurements for many times. So, like enough, you have to have enough subjects, like 30, 50. By getting 30, 50, you can imagine, like assume, like you can make an assumption that mm, from these many people liked it, these many people disliked it, then you can get a good idea. Not the 100% perfect idea, but it is much more reasonable than doing the sensory evaluation with three people. And also, subjects must be selected for sensitivity, and trained and retrained people should be used in these tests. So humans often yield varied responses to the same stimulus that happens all the time by their mental status, by their health status that can happen. And also, sensory professionals need to understand that differences between two persons' verdicts can also be caused by the difference in the sensation because their sense organs differ in sensitivity. Some might taste very subtle or weak taste, and also some might not like the um, salty taste likewise, and some kind of preference are also there, and difference in their menstrual treatment of the sensation. So some might lack the knowledge of the particular odor or the particular taste that we are expecting for a certain product according to their original specifications. So some might not be not lack the some might lack the knowledge of those specifications related to the products. So controls for test room and product and panel. So this is very important. So sensory evaluations are carefully controlled to ensure reliable and valid results. So the key considerations are the environment. So the testing area should be free from any other odors or noise or any distraction. So lighting and temperature should be controlled, and also in the sample preparation, samples must be prepared consistently, ensuring that temperature, portion, and also the presentation are standardized according to the standard sensory evaluation methods. And the panelist. In selecting panelist, so depending on the test type, panelists can be trained, and you can also get untrained panelists for some tests. Uh, but in descriptive test, you have to get the trained panelist for the sensory evaluation. For discrimination and descriptive tests, trained panelists are preferred, while consumer panels are used for effective testing. So, in data collection, proper techniques and tools are used to collect data, such as scoring sheets or computer software. So, by marking in the scoring sheet or in the computer software, can get these results and data into your sheets or into your computer software. So the principle. So conduct sensory evaluation under constant controlled condition with minimum distraction to reduce the effects of physiological factors and physical conditions on human judgment. As I mentioned in the previous slide, the instrument that we are using in this test is human sensory um, sensor. So in this incident, we have to minimize the distractions to reduce the effect of physiological and physical conditions that would cause any bias in the result. So there are some test variables like test control, product controls, and panel controls. So in the test control, that is the main thing would be the designing the test room. So test rooms include testing area, testing booth, and area for group work, and preparation area where we are preparing the plates and all the other things, and also the office. So this can be the like a map for the test room. Uh, so that should be uh, free of any distractions from the environment. So this is the storeroom, and this is where they prepare the food or the product, and this is testing booth, and also this is the testing booth, and this area is an area for group work, and this is the office, and this is the meeting room. So now the test area, the central location, and that is easy to reach, and it is not crowded, it is comfortable and quiet area. The temperature also controlled and free of any other odors, so you do not feel any odors or noise. Product control. So there you are serving in a container, serving size, and service metrics. So for an example, you might be serving something in a small bowl and something in a larger bowl. So there, by the look of it, you feel something. And also the serving size and also serving metric. For most different tests, uh, serve product itself without any additives like coffee, tea, vegetables, meat, peanut butter. When we are doing the sensory evaluations for these, like example for these test products, um, you have to serve the product without any additives like sugar. And also consumer test, preference or acceptance as normally consumed. And also products normally consumed on other products. So evaluate in a uniform carrier which does not mask product characteristics like if there is icing, if there is any sauces added or spices added or there is some flour mixes. So that can change, that can mask the product characteristics. So we have to control that as well. And serving temperature is also something to think. And order, coding, and number of samples. Order of presentation is very important for each product appear in the same position in equal number of times. And also random presentation can also be done, and also avoid single double numbers in coding. So you have to avoid single or double numbers in coding and avoid prominence in coding as well. So panelist controls panel training orientation. So first you have to familiarize the test procedures, how much amount you have to consume, and the delivery system, the contact time, disposition, the score sheets, how to mark them, and you have to familiarize with that with every panelist and type of judgment. So what are you expecting from the panel? Different, or if you are expecting the descriptive answer, or if you are looking to find out the acceptance or the preference of the panelist. So the product or time of the day. So untrained panelist at the time of the day that product is normally consumed. Highly flavored or alcoholic product. So early in the morning, it is not recommended. Uh, if you are tasting some highly alcoholic or highly flavored, like alcoholic products, it is not a good thing to test early in the morning. That is not recommended. And just after meals or tea breaks, it is not also recommended just after a meal or just after a tea break, because your sensory um, taste buds are very vulnerable to some taste. So you have to like do not you have to not to get any bias or any disturbance in your result. So now let's look at what are the applications of this sensory evaluation. So sensory evaluation is applied in various fields. So not only in food industry, it is also used in the cosmetics, because it helps in assessing the texture, fragrance, and overall appeal of products. In pharmaceuticals, sensory evaluation can assess the palatability of oral medicine, especially for pediatric or elderly patients. The textile industry it uses for sensory evaluation to assess the feel and comfort of fabrics. In the food industry, it is used to develop new products. After getting these evaluation marks, you can then decide whether you want to make any evaluation, any improvements. So that's a good sign. And improve existing products and ensure the quality is also in control. So these are some case studies or some examples. So these are some real world examples. So the famous example is Coca-Cola versus Pepsi test. In the test, where the sensory evaluation reveals strong consumer preference in these brands. Another example is the development of low-fat food products, where sensory evaluation helps to maintain uh, flavor and texture despite reduced fat content. So fat content causes the taste. Uh, so these case studies show the importance of sensory evaluation in product development and also in marketing. So yeah, uh, this is the end of my presentation. So if you found anything helpful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video.